Well, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. As we enter the new year, we have a lot of programming here at the Wealthy Speaker School about what's possible. And my goal is to expand your horizons to allow you to start thinking even bigger. I want to welcome back to the show Dawnna St. Louis. Dawnna, thanks for joining us again.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, I really want people to kind of hear your philosophies around growing your business. And part of that is growing your mindset. So tell
Absolutely.
everybody just a little bit of background in your journey into speaking.
Yeah, absolutely. I got started in speaking right after I retired from building a business that I had, and the long and short of it is I got really bored right after I sold my business. Like I sold my business and I was like,
What can I do now?
what do you do? I mean, there is so much like waxing, pulling, tugging, coloring, painting that you can do before you start looking really weird. And my kids at the time were 19 and 16. I was 39 years old, and all of my contemporaries were going to work every day, or they were at home moms. That wasn't working for me. I was like, yeah, So I actually went to Toastmasters just because I wanted to give back. That was a big part of what I wanted to do. Like, how do I do something to give back? And I was really good at giving presentations in corporate, laser pointers, PowerPoint, slides,
Right.
So I was really good at doing that. And I got into this crazy humorous speech competition, which was so not, again,
Out of your comfort
laser
zone?
pointers, slides, financials. That's what I do. Those are not funny, you
Just to
know?
back up, tell everybody what your company that you sold was all about and,
Yeah.
I'm assuming that you sold it for a lot of money.
I sold it for like $5 and some Skittles, I think. No, it was I had a tech consultancy that we sold for 250 million.
Oh my gosh.
I had it for 13 years.
Hmm.
Really loved it, and just got to a point where I had to make a decision. Were we going to get a board of directors and do the public thing or whatever, or were we going
Right.
to get out? And we chose. We never wanted to have my partner and I never wanted to have a boss, so we chose to go the other way. We chose to go ahead and sell, which was perfect for us.
So, okay. Back up even further than that. Did you grow up thinking I'm going to someday own a $250 million company and sell it? Like what was your household mindset? My household mindset was money doesn't grow on trees, and I made that to think that what I made up in my head about that was that you had to work really, really hard. Money doesn't just come to you. There's no such thing as abundance in the land that I grew up
Right. Right. Well, it's so funny because when you first asked me that question, I flash back to being about 6 years old, 5 years old, and having this nightgown, this really big nightgown that had a little girl on it that was an astronaut that said, "I can be anything I want to be when I grow up."
in. Ooh,
Right. I remember that immediately. But then I also remember we were super, super, super poor.
okay.
And so that was my California suburban life up until I was 8. Then fast forward and take me over to Miami, and we're living in Liberty City in the hood where it's extremely poor, and there was no abundance mindset. There was, you got to get a good job and you have to work for someone, probably a government job forever, and and you're going to just get by. And so it was a very different mindset. And so it was a shift of going from you can be anything you want to be when you grow up to, you got to get a good job, except for my grandmother, who was an entrepreneur.
Oh,
And she basically had a candy store that she ran out of her kitchen.
oh, wow. Okay. That,
Yeah.
that must have had its benefits in a couple of different
Oh my
ways.
God, the candy that I ate is just crazy. And
Oh,
on the
yum.
other hand, worked for the government.
So, do I remember this correctly? There was one point in your life that you were like living out of your car or something like
Yeah,
that?
when I was 19 years old, I was homeless. I got in my car and my hoopty. I had a little broke down piece of crap Dodge Omni. That was the official model. And, and I had done a great job putting gas in it, but I didn't put any oil in it. Went north on I-95
Oh my gosh.
and it broke down in the woods by a little lake area. Broke down right there. And I lived there for 4 months.
Because that was where you broke down.
That was where I broke
If
down.
it
I
was in
mean,
the 7-Eleven
there
parking
were no
lot.
cell phones at the time, so
Oh my gosh.
I wasn't gonna call anybody to come get me. My mom wasn't gonna, send in the chopper.
Oh,
Gonna happen. Nobody's gonna come save me.
no.
I mean,
4 months. At least you
yeah.
had a view, but still, 4 months living out of your car and you're 19 years old. Okay, so let's talk about you grew up in a situation that didn't maybe allow you to think that anything was possible. Maybe your grandmother might have instilled something in you. What
Yeah.
is it about grandmothers?
It's so funny because I think grandparents have this, they pour everything into their kids, and
Hmm.
their kids don't do it, so they're like, "You're our last hope."
Okay, that's it. You're the one.
Somebody's got to do it. I think it's you.
Oh, that's
And they have
good.
more choices, right? With them, they only have their kids. With grandkids, they have like way more choices.
Well, as a woman with 6 grandchildren, aging from newborn to 14 years old, the 14-year-old was an oops. We call him 10 years premature, so his mom was very young. Um, I have to tell you that that's what I feel like my role is in their lives is to expand their possibilities and their imaginations. It's not, did you eat your vegetables? It's more like, well, you could be a rocket
Yeah.
scientist if you really want it to be. Let's talk about what that might look like. And
Yeah.
so I think that that's interesting that your grandmother was an influence and an entrepreneur. And seeing somebody else be an entrepreneur, I think, is also
Huge. Well,
influential.
and the crazy thing is, if you think about it, parents have to be focused on, did you eat your vegetables?
Yes,
Um,
they want to
please
keep you
don't.
alive. There's
Yeah, their goal is like, please don't die today. Like every day is like, please don't do anything. Like every day, I'm telling you, I had two sons, and every day I was like, whoo, made it again. Like every day, like made it every day.
everybody's in bed, sleeping, alive. Okay,
Right?
thumbs
Yeah,
up.
yeah. Made it through the night. Woo, right? And then your grandparents don't have to be focused on that,
Hmm.
right? So they could be focused on the bigger opportunities and pictures and dreams and that type of thing.
Okay, so let's unpack zero, living in your car at 19 to selling your company for $250 million. There's a lot that went on in between there. And you have a lot of great Dawnna-isms, which we discussed the last time. I just want to give people a couple of ideas around that. Um, Talk about not everybody accepting you.
Yeah, well, and if I go back to, and I'll go back and then I'll come back to that one. If I go back, one of the first things that I would tell you made me super successful, a skill, a mindset, and a skill set that I use today
Mhm.
was, I don't care what I read. If I read it, I'm going to use it. I'm one of those people who even if I read a book like The Da Vinci Code, just for argument's sake, to me, if I read something out of that, I'm figuring out how to use it. Even when I read that book and they would talk about, if you've ever read the book, it always talks about Italy and Florence, Italy, and that type of thing. I started looking up the art and the artists and the people. I
Right,
learned more about Da Vinci than I ever knew before in my life.
right,
I
yeah.
wanted to be able to use it. So the first thing I would tell you is, if you're going to read your book, your book, right? What the Wealthy
Wealthy
Speaker
Speaker
speaker? What's the
2.0.
name of your book? I read your book, Wealthy Speaker. There you go.
Yeah.
When somebody sits down and reads your book, some people will read it and they'll thumb through it. If you saw a copy of your book in my hands, you would see post-it notes, ink, like writing, highlighting. I
And that
couldn't
makes
pass
an
it on to
author really happy and excited, by the way.
you. Right? Yeah, I
All
could.
marked up. It's like, yes, you used it,
Yeah.
you embraced it, you embodied this.
Yeah, I couldn't. I literally would not be able to pass it on to anyone, I would tell people, oh
Right.
God, there's so much written in the margins and
Go
everything.
get your own copy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anything that, yeah, they have to. So anything that someone reads, if you read it, don't just consume it, use
Hmm.
it, leverage it, figure out what works for you. That is what I did to get from homeless into IT and from IT into being, listen, when someone came to me and said, we want you to do a humorous speech competition.
Uh,
I don't do funny. I
yeah.
don't do funny. What the hell are you talking about? Like people would
You're,
laugh at
you're
me.
like a geek at heart, right?
Right.
So
Oh my
just know
God.
that this is where
Yes.
Dawn is coming from, is that
Yes.
humor
There
may
should
not
be
have
people
come
on these
naturally
classes
for
right
her.
now. Yes. I'm a geek. And so for me it was really one of those things of, if I decide, and I did a lot of things that were well outside of my comfort zone. And so for me it was always read it, read it, learn it, use it immediately. You don't have to read the whole book, or read the whole book and then go back and read that part. My biggest problem is reading books is that I'm so busy taking notes that I have to read most books twice
Yeah.
just so I can get it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I love that you take your knowledge in that regard. And some of the things I think we take for granted are that when you're getting into your car, that's I think it was Les Brown that calls it your university on wheels. Like, what are you putting in? Remember, garbage in, garbage out. Quality knowledge in, that's what you're suggesting that even when you're doing something for pleasure, you could be getting something out of it, and I love that.
Yeah.
So
And I hear people brag all the time. Oh, I read 52 books this year. And I'm like, I don't care. What did you do?
that information,
All right.
action did you take as a result of it? So the idea that not everybody's going to like you, did that become amplified for you after you sold your company? Because now it's like, oh, okay. Before you were an entrepreneur, like, I'm wondering if you've gone through several evolutions of your identity and how you kind of kept people close to you who maybe weren't on board with where you were going, or
Yeah.
wanted to perhaps participate more fully than you would have liked
Yeah.
them to participate.
I had long, blonde, straight hair. And I used to wear it up in a bun, and I had pearl earrings and little pearl dots here, and I wore loafers, and I had on like I call it the Hillary Clinton Teletubby blue suit. Like, the whole thing, very little, if any, makeup at all. And, but it wasn't me. It
At
was,
which point was this? Where were you in your
this was
journey?
when I had first started speaking.
Or started speaking?
Like,
Okay, so you
first,
sold your
first,
company, and
yeah.
now you're like, I need to be a speaker. So this is what the speaker
And
looks
that
like.
identity came with me from my business world, because in business I kind of had that belief that I had to fit that mold.
Hmm.
Walking into corporate, I had to look a certain way. Um, and once I got out of, even in my own company, right? So it's myself and my business partner. Now I'm out of that, and I'm in the speaking world, and I'm trying to follow what looks to me to be that mold, right? And I'm not saying that that was the mold that existed. I'm saying that was the mold that I saw. It's just like, and let me be clear about that. It's just like when somebody says, I never see any red Alfa Romeo Stelvios, and then all of a sudden you're going down the street and all you see is red Alfa Romeo Stelvios, because in my mind that's what the mold looked like. I'm pretty sure someone told me that's what the mold was, and then of course I saw it everywhere. So I'm like, oh, I have to try to fit me into that mold to be successful. That wasn't true at all.
So when you stepped into your fullest, most authentic self, which today is cute, curly
Definitely not a
hair.
long, long
Uh,
straight.
I can't even. I don't know. I didn't know that you had long blonde hair. So, what is your makeup of your race? I'm just curious about that.
I'm black Italian and Jamaican.
Black, Italian, and Jamaican. So your father was what, and your mother was what?
My dad is black Jamaican and Italian,
Okay.
specifically Sicilian, right?
Okay.
So the darker skin tones and stuff, and the curly hair and all that. And then my mom is black.
Okay.
I
So
know. And if you saw them next to me, you'd go, I mean, she has the features, but
you're not getting it.
I was born with blonde hair, blue eyes. Like, my
Uh,
mom was like, that's not mine. You gave me the wrong one.
okay. Okay, so that's why I brought that up
Yeah.
because I think it's important for the listeners to get the full picture when we're talking about you with long blonde hair.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah, like yeah, cause so yeah, of course you're listening. So I have more of an olive complexion, hazel eyes, and dark curly hair.
mhm.
And if you saw my mom looks like a black woman with red undertones. My dad looks like a black man with deeper brown undertones. I am not that complexion. Most people go to me, "What are you?"
I didn't know that Jamaican Italian was a thing. That pretty common?
No,
Okay.
no, no, not at
All right.
all. No.
So, okay. So, moving on from that conversation, I just thought it was interesting to note that when you're going through these evolutions in you're walking through life in America as a black woman, and that's very different from somebody living up here in Canada as a white
Right.
person, right? So my experience of the world is much different from yours. So, talk about when you become uh, this like how long did you own your business for?
13 years.
13 years. So did you start like just kind of scraping it together and
Yeah.
then end at the big sale? And
Yeah. Yeah.
so you're cashing out and then you're thinking, what do I do with myself now? And was there people in your life who liked this version of you or didn't like this version of you? Like, not every, you cannot people please your way through these
Right.
types of situations or else you'll be in trouble.
And well, so here's the funny thing. That was the version of me that everyone knew, pretty much, right? Like most of the
Which
people,
which version of you was the
the
one?
blonde hair, long straight blonde hair,
Mhm.
who came off very corporate. That's not who I was though.
Corporate Donna.
That was corporate Donna, but that the funny thing is that's never who I really was,
Okay, so you
right?
had a
I had
facade
I had
on.
an amazing representative, right?
Hmm.
And most people would go, yeah, so that's how you got successful. No, no, no. I may have been, and you have to understand the definition of success, right? So yes, maybe I got rich, but I wasn't wealthy because I wasn't happy. I always felt like people didn't accept me for who I was. Like, what if
Hmm.
I really showed up as I really am, right? And it's kind of funny because when I went on my acid tour, so I had been speaking and I had been getting paid as a speaker, and I just had enough. I was exhausted with going in and trying to. I make faces. I make weird faces, and not on purpose. My grandmother's face just happens to show up here anytime I speak. Some little attitude will pop out. Somebody says something, and she'll just pop up.
Right,
And
right,
I would watch my videos and go, "Oh my God, why am I making that face? What is wrong with me?" And I kept trying to be newscaster face,
right.
everything perfect,
Corporate
polished,
newscaster
and
Donna. Yes.
and I couldn't do it, and it was frustrating me. I never saw a video of myself that I liked. I hated them all. And finally, I talked to someone who said, "Stop. Let your grandmother show up. They're not hiring a newscaster. They're hiring you."
Hmm.
And one of the reasons that people say they're quote unquote intimidated by you is because people know that there's something underneath the facade that you're showing up with.
Right.
So stop intimidating them. Show up as your full self, right? It's like, something's hiding in the closet. It was kind of one of those feelings. And so when I went on my acid tour because I was done with speaking,
What do you mean acid tour?
I had officially decided I was no longer going to speak. I was
Okay.
done with this.
So
Done. I had enough of
how,
it. Tired
how
of
long
the
had you been
Teletubby outfits.
how long had you been speaking when you said that's it, I'm burnout?
Probably like 3 years.
Okay, so
I
three
mean, not
years. Was it
long.
because you got into it to such a like a degree? Were you not charging enough? So you were busy, busy, busy? Like
No,
what was going on there?
I was actually charging well at the time. I was charging 10,000, which was at the top of, for somebody coming in at my level, I think. So I
Yeah.
was doing pretty good to
Hmm.
start. No, I was exhausted because I was constantly coming up with whatever they wanted. I was trying to fit into
Oh,
their mold, and it was exhausting because I was a new person every 5 days.
okay. All right.
Every time I stepped on stage, it was a new Dawnna.
Okay, so the lesson from that is figure out who you are. Pick a lane, figure out who you are, and be authentically yourself. And also I do believe that you can have one really amazing presentation that you customize to a degree that makes you happy enough that you feel
Right.
like you're giving a new presentation each time.
And
Maybe it's
I hadn't picked the
60% the
lane,
same,
Jenny.
40%, and you were reinventing the wheel every single time.
Every time.
Okay, so
Every
even though
time.
10K, but that's exhausting in terms of how much prep and
Yeah,
reinvention.
there's no money that pays off exhaustion. There's no
Okay.
amount of money that pays off exhaustion.
I want to circle back to something you said about being rich versus wealthy. Dig into that for me. I'm very curious what you mean. What is your definition of rich? What is your definition of wealthy?
Rich is I have put on my sneakers and I have become a track star chasing money.
And you have a great saying about let the money chase you.
Yes, don't chase the dollar, let the dollar chase you. If you chase the dollar, you're going to catch the weakest dollar. If you chase money, you're going to catch the weakest piece of currency. But if you let it chase you, only the strong will survive, right? I akin it to like catching a dog. Have you ever had to catch your dog? If
Not
you
the
do,
easiest thing. He's pretty fast.
right, if you do, you go out and you can run full speed and you're not going to catch him. You have to outsmart him.
Yeah.
But if you really want to catch your dog, all you got to do is run from him. He'll
He'll
chase you.
chase you.
Dollars are the exact same way.
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay,
Stop
so
chasing.
that's a Donnaism. Don't chase the money, let the money chase you. So being when you are rich
You are
versus
chasing the
wealthy.
dollar. You're figuring out how to outsmart it. You're navigating. You're catching it, and you're catching a lot of it. You're tired, by the way. It's
Okay,
all
so
get out.
you're rich, you're chasing, but
But
when
when
you're
you're wealthy,
wealthy,
you're wealthy not only because it's not just the money anymore. It's the
it's
whole
about
thing.
the lifestyle.
Everything. You love everything about what you're doing. You love where you live. You love who you are. You love how you show up. You love the people who you allow to be in your circle. It's
You're
more
doing
relaxing.
all day, every day. This is what we say that the wealthy speaker lifestyle is that you're working in your zone of genius and everything else gets farmed out. So you have enough people around you on your team. And if you're just starting out, that might look like hiring a VA in the Philippines, so that you can make this work for yourself and work on your three main core competencies, your zone of so lifestyle plus money in the bank, because we know, so people might say, oh, well, that's easy for you to say, Donna, because you have money in the bank. You're going to make rent, mortgage, whatever it might be. Talk a little bit about how people who maybe are still worried about the bills.
I got you covered. I got you covered. So listen, 5 years ago, I went through a Mac Nasty divorce.
Mm.
And I had, well, not even a divorce, separation. And I had $2,500. And I was moving to another state with just my clothes. That was 5, maybe 6 years ago.
You like split and started over? Is that what you're saying?
Yep. I left
So,
and started completely over 6 years ago.
okay.
Like from zero.
I have a lot of questions about that.
Oh
What
my God.
happened to the $250 million?
Well,
Where did all that
when
money
you
go?
sell a company, they don't give you all 250 million.
All right, tell me how that
How
works.
that works.
I've never sold a company for 215 before, so you need to educate me, please.
Yeah, yeah, no, you have like employees, and we had 125 employees and a whole bunch of consultants. So people got big bonuses. So you don't walk away with a check for 250 million. That has to be split among a lot of folks.
Good to
Taxes
know.
and taxes have to be paid.
Yeah, that's a real kicker, isn't it? And you
Yeah.
should be glad you don't live in Canada because we would
Oh,
have taken 10% or more.
we probably paid about 30 something percent. So
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. People usually think you walk away with $250 million check. That's not how it walks. That's not.
Okay.
I may have
Fair.
walked away with a few million. Then I put a lot of in a trust and retirement and that type of thing.
Okay. So
So of
that's
the cash
all
on
fair.
hand, right? Of the cash on hand, I had $2,500.
Okay. So you've got $2,500 5 years ago, and you're like, okay, I'm starting
Okay, let's
over.
go do it.
Reinvention.
But
Here
the,
I go.
but the thing that I had was the mindset.
And you
I
were
knew.
unstoppable.
Oh my God, I knew that I could make I could make anywhere between $50,000 and $90,000 in 90 days. I knew it. I just had to pick up the phone and start making calls. Like I had to start working.
So you knew that you had value,
Absolutely.
and that if you brought that value to the table, started smiling and dialing, that you would be able to build back some of that wealth very, very quickly. And I think that that's what's given me pause I'm at the point now where I haven't worried about money for a long time. But I think that's my solace is that, okay, if everything went to hell in a handbasket tomorrow, that I can always earn money.
You and I and
I can
and
build
that's kind of
value.
and that's kind of one of the things that like one of my clients loves to say. She says, "Listen, Dawnna breathes money. She breathes it." And the reason she says that is because if I say, "Listen, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do and how to do it. Go do it." And she goes, "Some people just know how to make money because they're not chasing money. They're creating the opportunities and stepping into them. Those opportunities just happen to have money in them." And so it is one of those things where, like, even right now, I could literally pick up the phone and start making phone calls, and in January go, okay, I said jokingly the other day to someone, I go, I think I want to do an extra, quick extra $100,000 in January because, and he was just like, who says that? They want to do a quick extra $100,000 in
I
January.
can do six figures in January. And
Right.
the reason why I buy into that is because I have watched people over and over again change their mindset, change their results. Change your mindset. If you're not getting the results that you want, and I know sometimes I have my clients look at me and think, well, tell me what to do. What actions do I need to take? And honestly, the old noggin is where you have to start. So
Yeah.
I'm going through this little phase myself. I'll kind of share on the podcast. This is a little scary for me. Where in the back of my mind to get to seven figures, I think I've had some sort of notion that I was going to need to work harder. I would need to hire a lot more people and blah, blah, blah. And I was kind of making up excuses as to, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that. So
Hmm.
I had this coaching session and we asked a better question. And the question was, how can I make moving to seven figures be easy? How can I make moving to seven figures be easy? And so now my brain is playing with that.
Yes.
And what I realized is that it was just like such a weight off my shoulder to imagine it being easy. So, and
Hmm.
then the how of how it comes to you. Your subconscious mind gets to work the
Yep.
minute you plant a seed like that.
Yep. One of the things that here's another mindset shift for you, and I try to teach people this all the time, and it's hard for them to understand because they hear me talk about money and they think I'm selling money and I'm not. And so what I tell people, I'm like, stop selling money because it's cheap. People with money aren't trying to figure out how to get money. They're trying to figure out how to get the other things: freedom, happiness, more time, etc. And so they're like, yeah, but you tell people how to turn their 6-week program into a 6-figure mansion retreat. And I'm like, yes. I said, but notice they already have a 6-week program. They've already figured out how to make money. What I'm
Right.
really doing is I'm giving them freedom because I'm helping them have more time that they didn't have before. And they're like, "Oh," I said, I'm not selling money. Money is cheap, so stop selling it." And broke
Right.
people are buying money, not rich people. Rich
Mm,
people are not buying money. Rich people already have it.
so true. Okay. So talk about investing before you are actually ready.
Oh my
I have a
God, this is
card
my
here
favorite.
somewhere, and it says you cannot play small in your decision making while expecting to play big in your income,
This is
right?
my favorite.
Talk
Yes.
about that and how that helps you. When did you invest before you were actually ready?
Okay. I'm going to talk about this year.
Okay.
This year. Okay. So, I had coaches, right? Um, but they weren't coaches where I had invested like 10 or 20,000. Like I hadn't done that, right?
Yeah.
And so I had like mindset coaches that I always, don't get me wrong, I find mindset coaches very, very, very helpful.
Yes.
But at the beginning of this year, I had invested in a coach. Now, this is the best part of this. I invested $20,000 in this coach, and she was horrible.
Oh, I see. I feel like you've told me this story before. Yeah.
Right. She was horrible. And so, of course, that would normally make people gun shy. But she did give me this one idea, totally by accident. And that one idea turned into a bunch of money at the end of the year.
Mm.
Right. So here I am fresh. I mean, fresh off of getting scammed out of about 20 grand.
Mm-hmm.
What do? I turn around and I invest 25 grand on another coach immediately. It's just like if you get in a car accident, the best thing you could do is get in the car and start driving.
Mm.
So I invest in another coach immediately, and that immediately turned into money.
Mm.
And why did I do that? I invested more than I was comfortable with.
Yes.
Because if you invest more than you're comfortable with, you don't need an accountability partner. Nobody needs to hold your feet to the fire. You're going to hold your feet to the fire.
That
And the
skin in the
difference
game.
between
Yeah.
a lower end coach and a higher end coach is this: a lower end coach sells accountability,
Mm.
a higher end coach sells expectation.
Okay. And I love that you said that because I think I've had a number of private coaching clients who I believed in more than they believed in themselves in terms of what was possible. And what's the value of that? And they've
Exactly.
stepped into it.
Yep.
Stepped into it.
Yep.
So when you have someone telling you, and my coach does that for me. Lisa Larder is my coach. I'm going to have her here on the podcast here shortly. And she does that for me. And so sometimes I'm not ready to hear it.
I know,
And
right?
I step into it and it's like, okay, I see what you're talking about there.
And you want your coach to, like, I have a coach as well. My coach is, I'm probably going to invest $100,000 in coaching this year, but I'm chasing 3.2 million, right? Well, my people want me to have a coach because my coach is going to push me higher, which means I'm pushing people higher.
Yeah.
And as a result of me even having a coach, the people who I attract now are quite different from the people who I used to attract, because
Right.
I'm attracting higher end people, and I have more of a tiered system now, which is huge because I never thought this was possible. And I'm going to say that one more time. I never thought this was possible. And so when people are sitting there going, "But Dawnna, I could never charge someone 10,000, 15, or $20,000 for a program." Hey, I didn't think so either. But I had a coach that was like, "But let me show you."
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about charging for that. It's about delivering the value. I know people who charge those rates and don't deliver. Again, I got pulled in by one this at the beginning of the year.
Right.
The people that I coach, we're very, very clear on, I'm going to teach you how to deliver before I teach you how to sell.
Mm.
Because I never want you to sell something that you can't deliver. I know
Right.
people who teach you how to sell, and they could care less if you deliver.
And please know when we're talking about these numbers that really you've got to be bringing some good value to the
Oh,
table.
yeah.
Not just picking numbers out of the air. We know what's going on out there in the market. Um, if you want to level up you must talk about playground, playmates, playthings.
Another one of my favorites. So we always hear people that talk about, they want to make a change.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we'll start off with the playmates. The people you're around are saying the things that they've always said, and no one is saying anything different. What I absolutely love about the one thing that I'm always, that people, when they say this about me, I love it, is they go, you say things that I haven't heard other people say before. And I go, well, you know why the 1% is the 1%? Because they're not doing what the 99% is doing.
Right.
So if I'm saying things different from other people, it might be scary, but you should probably listen.
Yes.
I'm not saying what everybody else is saying for a reason. Just like you don't, Jane, for a reason. Because you're delivering a different level of success. Mm-hmm. So you first have to change your playmates. You have to get around people. If you're at level 1, you got to get people at level 2, 3, and 4. You got to get in a completely different area.
Yeah, so be thinking about what do we want to say, 5 people. Who are the 5 people that you spend the most time with? Are they where you want to go?
Right.
Or are
you where they want to go?
Hanging on to your coat. Yeah. Trying to climb up. Okay. Playmates. Playground.
Playground. You listen. If you're the person who's like, Dawnna, all I ever do is deliver keynotes. Okay. Change your playground. Can you deliver a keynote right here on Zoom? Can you go and deliver one in the park? Can you deliver one on a yacht? How and what other ways can you play? Can you only play in really start thinking about that. Start thinking about where you're hanging out.
Yeah. Maybe you could break it down into, small, smaller presentations that happen more frequently. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do that. And that's
delivering at chapters. Can you deliver at national? If you're only delivering at associations, can you deliver at corporate? If you're only delivering at corporate, can you deliver at associations? Start branching out and doing things out of the comfort zone that you're in. I know people who only work with one type of client. And there's nothing wrong with niching like that. But I'm going, but at what point does your brain get stimulated by other types of clients so you can start thinking differently and raise your game?
Or maybe they offer up something different to that group of clients. I mean, there's lots of different ways to slice that. Play things, the tools you use.
Tools you use. One of the things that a lot of people have seen me present on is this concept of a light board. Right? I looked at everybody else was doing whiteboards and flip charts during the pandemic, and I decided to go and build a light board, which is very, very, very different. What technology is everyone else using? What can you do that's not like what everyone else is doing?
I love that. I want to see that now.
Oh my God, I have to show you.
In the show notes, I would like to see what you using the light board looks like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you probably just geeked out on that anyway, right?
I did. Are you kidding me?
I love it. I love it. Okay, last question. It's not your job to carry the weight of everybody else's opinions. How do we be okay with not everybody being madly in love with us?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say, and this is going to sound very, very snobby and snotty, and it's okay. It's okay to be a little snobby and snotty. It's fine. Okay. Pick your circle. Not everybody's opinion is worth listening to. They really aren't. Some people just have opinions, and it's one of those things where how when you go and you give a speech and then they tell you, they have all these surveys and they want you to read through
happy forms. Yes.
I never read through those. And here's why. I don't know if that guy is really pissed off at his wife who just happens to have curly hair and hazel eyes. So he saw me, and no matter what I did today, I sucked, right? I don't know where their mindset is. I don't know where they're coming from. So I really only value the opinion of people who I value. And I need to understand what's the baseline for where their opinion came from before I accept it.
And the thing is, we are so hard on ourselves. I don't think we need to pile on sometimes. I had a client a couple of weeks ago who got this one negative review, and it weighed on her for days. And I just think that you're hard enough on yourself. You do not need to use those forms to pile on. There might be a nugget in there for you every once in a while. but really be aware of what is true and what is true for you, and you
Right.
be the one who determines how you feel moving forward. I
Yep.
find I'm my own worst critic. I
Oh yeah.
often can have, after like a big success, then I'll start to unwind it and unravel and start to think of something, oh, I think I offended somebody or whatever it might be. And, look at the intention behind it and really value your own opinion.
Absolutely. I stopped doing the negative nugget hunting for a while. That's what I call those surveys.
Mhm.
I stopped doing those. I really, if people gave me an accolade, there was probably nothing in there that I could actually use.
Mhm.
And if they said something negative, I didn't have the ability to go back and ask questions. So I never found real value out of those.
Okay.
And so I don't even look at them. The people who I count on are my chief marketing officer and my chief sales officer. They look at our video, they look at the videos, they break them down into nuggets, and then they'll give me feedback on, hey, next time you do this, can you say it this way instead of this way, because I think it'll have a bigger impact.
Oh, that's
That
good.
to me is valuable.
That's good. And that alone, if you have somebody on your team who will tell you the truth rather than yes man, yes women, that is golden. That is really, really helpful, especially if you're anyone who has any type of celebrity. Having a truth teller in your midst is absolutely critical because typically your agent is not going to tell you the truth. They're the ones.
My chief marketing officer. So for me, it's my chief marketing officer, and the reason is he needs good content to be able to market at the top of the game. So he's not looking at me as much as he's looking at how can I sell this better. I could sell this better if we made this one tweak, this one change. So he's coming at it from a position of it is really not even about you. It's about what I need.
Yes, that's good. And that's great. Taking
Yeah.
your ego, you and your ego out of the question, out of the
Right.
equation is brilliant. Okay. Final question. If you had one thing, let's say you're kind of trying to go from, $100,000 to 250. What's one thing that you think that people need as an essential element to doing that?
Besides the fact that they need to know how to sell, here's a mindset shift that just helped someone this weekend that I thought would be really helpful for this podcast. He said it was a game changer for him.
Okay.
Most people tell me that they struggle with, quote, selling themselves.
Hmm.
How do I get up there and brag about how awesome I am for this
Yes.
event? And I get that. That's really hard. So I'm going to tell you a secret. If you think you're selling yourself, you're selling the wrong thing because you're
Mm.
not. You're actually selling an amazing speech, amazing engagement. You just happen to be the vehicle in which that content is going to come through. But you are not selling yourself, right? They already saw your videos. They know you, right? They wanted to make sure you weren't going to drool off yourself. That's what they were looking for. Now, you're selling amazing content. You're selling the results for your audience.
Solution to a problem. Yeah,
You're
exactly.
selling a solution to a problem. You are
Hmm.
not selling yourself. If you can get past that part,
That's really good.
then you will see more value in your solution.
Hmm.
Because listen, how do you make more money? You got to raise your rates. You got to be more efficient and deliver higher quality, right? But your
Hmm.
mindset has to start first and recognize what you're really selling. You're selling a solution to a problem. You're not selling a speech.
I love it. I love it. Hey, if people want to get in touch with you, maybe they're interested in hanging out at the mansion with you, what should they do? What's their first step?
I would tell people, so right now, and I gotta tell you, I've never been so proud of a particular video in my life, and we just talked about how I don't like me on video. So, oh, and you can see the light board, Jane.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, if you go to firebrand.net,
Okay.
we have a 60-minute program, which I love, and it's free. It's free, by the way. I don't want you to think you have to pay anything.
Wow.
60-minute program at firebrand.net, and it literally says, here's the foundation for your business. Here's a 7-point cycle so you can make your first million as an expert. And here are 5 winning strategies that you can use right now to move forward. Totally works.
Okay, we're going to put that in the show notes, firebrand.net.
Spelled with a
Oh,
Y.
Dawnna, thank you so much for coming back. I love talking. I can
Hey.
talk to you about money and mindset all day
All day long.
appreciate you very much. I hope this will help people really start to set some bigger goals in 2022. There's opportunity all around us, COVID or no COVID, there is opportunity all around us. So thank you again for being here. If you're listening in, thank you so much for listening. And with that, we will say, see you soon, multi speakers. Bye for now, everyone.